And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Not Dumb Guy Live. Don't adjust your eyes, your head, your your monitors. Not Dumb Guy Live, but WrestlePurists worldwide, folks. We're back at it another Monday to talk about a very exciting weekend in professional wrestling. I'm your host, as always, Ibu of WrestlePurists. I'm joined by the boss man Montel himself, and we're joined by the final Ross, J. Rossi Ogawa. Jamie. Jamie of WrestlePurists. Jamie, formerly of the now deceased but beloved Dumb Guy Live. He's here with us to talk about a really, really fun weekend of wrestling. Like I said, folks, we're going to talk about a lot of Japanese wrestling this weekend because I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you noticed this. I don't know if you checked. I don't know if you talked to your friends lately, but Puro's back. Puro's back. And Noah had an awesome show in the Budokan, Noah Destination. Marigold had an awesome show in the Sumo Hall. This is Marigold Summer Destiny. We'll have you guys covered with with those shows. We will be talking about Stephanie Vaquer's departure from CMLL and her debut in WWE. SummerSlam is taking shape, and all of the things that come in between. So, guys, make sure to like the video, comment, super chat, all that, because there's a lot to get into, a lot to talk about, a lot of weeds to sift through, a lot of little news and notes when it comes to just all the business happening. So I'm excited to get into all of it. And before we go any further, Monty, boss man, how you feeling, man? The land of the rising sun. I
It's
think we're
back.
back. I think
It's
we're back.
back. It's back. We it's good. It's good to see. It's a good weekend. It's a good weekend of wrestling. And
Yes.
like you said, bro, it's back. It's back. Ready to get into it. We've got a lot to get into, man. We've got a
Yes.
lot.
Yes.
We've
It's
got a
kind of
lot.
it's kind of why hilarious here. 6:16. That's not like this technically late, but for us, it's like whatever. I was trying to really make time here because we got a lot to get into. And I'm excited for it. I'll just quickly throw this out, man. I love Japanese wrestling, and when I'm not into it, it affects my enjoyment of wrestling dramatically. Which is why earlier this year I just kind of I felt a little disengaged. But man, I watched the Sendai Girl show, promoted by the great Mako Satomura. I watched Jordan Grace facing Chihiro Hashimoto. Oh, that was awesome. I watched the Noah show, the Marigold show. I even fit in an astronauts match that they had in the Japanese Indies a few weeks ago. So I'm locked back in, brother. I'm locked back in. You know what I mean? Another guy who's locked in is Jamie. Jamie, how are you doing today? This is your worldwide debut. How do you feel, man? The houses are big. What's going on, man? How do you look up, kid? Look at the bright lights.
I'm doing good. I'm doing very, very good. I'm doing the whole free agent gimmick at the moment after Dumb Guy Live came to an end. I've been appearing here, there, and everywhere. I was on the late night grin on Saturday. I've been popping up, in a few places, but it's the big one with the worldwide debut. The people have been waiting, and it couldn't have come at a better time, man. Like you said, Japan might be back. I mean, Japan not being back kind of was a big contributor to Dumb Guy Live coming to its demise. We were doing weekly the yen is down updates, and it was never going up. So hopefully, we see an uptick in that soon.
Wasn't trending well.
Wasn't trending well, but listen, that's it was just perfect. It was just so fitting for you to come. Last week when I was informed that Anna would not be able to make this show live, when I found this out, I immediately in my mind was like, well, we got to get Jamie on because it's a big Marigold show. It's a Noah show. It just makes sense. You're going to be our Mike Tenay, WCW Mike Tenay here, our correspondent, our Nippon correspondent. Jamie will absolutely be aiding us in giving us some additional context and necessary information when it comes to some of the notes and booking surrounding Marigold and the direction to come. So we'll be getting into that as well. And even though Anna could not make it, we will be talking to her live via satellite because she was not going to miss the show and not be able to give her opinions on the Iyo Sky match because she faced Utami Hayashida. It's a clash of two former Queen's Quest leaders. We finally got this dream match, and I will absolutely be tapping in overseas to where Anna is and get her opinions on this. We will be accessing her shortly. But right now, let's get into some super chats.
Let's see, you want to do super chats a bit early?
Yes, let's do it.
We got the one at the minute off Darren Walker, so we'll just start with Darren because he's a good.
Let's do it.
Darren Walker, £2. Any views on the trios title shambles on Collision?
Yeah, Darren's referring to the Bang Bang Gang getting stripped. Jay White is allegedly injured, and Juice Robinson wanted to hold the belts and defend them with the guns, and not happening. AEW interim VP or whatever you want to call him, Christopher Daniels, has stripped them of the Adam Pearce #2.
He's trying his best,
Right. Well,
Everyone's giving him a hard time.
Right. He has stripped the Bang Bang Gang of the Trios titles, and if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be facing he's going to be facing the Patriarchy for those championships. They're going to be facing the Patriarchy. So the belts are vacated. My opinions, I don't know, man. I feel like AEW is a little inconsistent when it comes to those rules. But I guess we'll see what happens. There may be some more to the Jay White situation, but nothing I could really report on at this point. Beyond that, I don't have much to say other than that the Trios championships and the division in general is just not a division that I'm particularly interested in these days.
Yeah, it's a shame. The division started with so much optimism, when the belts got introduced and we had that best of 7 with the Elite. It was a different time, even with WrestlePurists.
It's just so funny because in 2020 and 2021, Jamie, I don't know if you remember this, but like AEW would have these awesome 6-man tags, and people are like, "Oh my God, we need Trios titles! We need Trios titles! Oh my God!" Right? And then we finally get them, and like it's like the timing wasn't great because they came at a time when the Trios action wasn't as hot. The tournament was awesome. But I mean, Brawl Out hurt things because you couldn't get the Elite. And by like the end of 2023, I mean, it's just like, they're just a belt on the show, So yeah. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think I remember when they first came in, and obviously there was a lot of excitement and clamor for them, as you mentioned. But I think in bringing them in, it definitely didn't help the tag division. And I think it's belts that I'm not sure whether they're super necessary. Like AEW has the talent for it, but if they're not going to give them the attention they deserve, then I think it at times takes away from some of their other divisions. So I've not been their biggest fan so far. And this isn't exactly helping. But like I said, they certainly have the talent to make it work. Like, I don't know who you kind of throw together. I'd love to see Leo Rush in the mix with you could throw him with a few cool guys and he'd get a good few 6-man tags. But yeah, they're not my favorite thing about AEW so far, and I don't think it's been much of a success.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So we'll see what happens. I've been already kind of informed of what the Trios title matches at Wembley, and to be fair, I'll tell you guys this: it'll be a hell of a match, the planned match at Wembley, and it should get somebody a much needed moment at the big show. But broadly speaking, I just don't really particularly care about the division. But thank you, Darren. Thank you for the super chat. Is that all we got at the moment, Monty?
Yeah, we got just the modest one to get us started.
Awesome. That's fine. Because sometimes these things kind of like really back up the show. So, still feel free to send us your money, guys. But without, please, I got to pay the bills. I got three mouths to feed. But without further ado, let's start with this. So, WWE finds themselves in uncharted waters, Monty, because what's been happening lately is very much antithetical to how they normally do business or conduct themselves. They're usually very isolationist historically. I know they've kind of dabbled with Japan, before McMahon really went national. They did the same again in the early 90s when Tenryu was starting up his stuff with Super World of Sports. But generally speaking, WWE's isolationist. This year, it's very interesting. I mean, last year we saw Keiji Muto. He worked with WWE. He entered the Hall of Fame. He worked Shinsuke Nakamura at the Noah show at the beginning of the year. But that felt like a one-off. This year, Charlie Dempsey goes to All Japan, and it's like, oh, what's happening here? But it generally felt like a one-off, and it was like, is this something, nothing, or everything? It just feels like, it's kind of something, kind of nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's like, is this something? It's a nothing. Is it everything? I don't know. But now,
can you trust it?
Right. But
still,
now, right. But now, 2 months ago, Noah's director Narihiro Takeda basically said that one of the goals going forward was to strengthen the relationship with WWE. And people are like, what does that mean? Is this going to be something? Who knows? Rossy Ogawa was all over WrestleMania weekend. He had the Mania shirts. He was in Philly posing with the shirts and smiling in pictures. And Julia was there and Regal's there. And you're like, what's going on here? Well, a lot of this is beginning to materialize now, guys, because we find ourselves in July of 2024. And we have a burgeoning partnership happening. And it's very weird. It's still very early. I don't know what to make of it. It's like when you're dating the new girl and you don't know yet what's going on. But here's the deal. Iyo Sky someone who has held a women's championship this year and was in the semi-main of Night 2 of WrestleMania was advertised to wrestle one of their top stars in Utami Hayashida in the semi-main of Sumo Hall. And then conversely for Noah, they sent AJ Styles, who main evented a pay-per-view this year against Cody Rhodes. He had 2 title matches with Cody Rhodes this year, a former multi-time champion. And he faced my man Naomichi Marufuji. So that's interesting. And then we find out on the Noah show that they're doing their N1 Victory tournament that they do every year. And each block has an NXT wrestler. You know, in A block, they have Josh Briggs, and in the B block, they have Tavian Heights. So this is now something. This is officially something now. What's it called? Sendai Girls, the promotion run by Meiko Satomura. They had Jordan Grace wrestling last night this morning, I apologize, against Chihiro Hashimoto, and she's advertised for the upcoming WWE shows in Japan in 2 weeks. So the bottom line is WWE is officially starting to plant some roots into Japan. And I want to explore what you guys make of it so far and what the positives and the negatives are and what you think are WWE's intentions in doing so and what could come of that. So I'm going to toss it first to Jamie, the Japan guy. What do you make of everything that's been happening?
Yeah, I think when WWE are involved with other promotions, it's always going to, raise a few eyebrows, as we've seen with the reactions to it. People are very kind of skeptical of WWE's intentions. I think the assumption is that WWE are kind of trying to steal all the big stars down the line, right? People think, the Kaitos of the world are going to end up in WWE, and or they're going to buy out these promotions outright. Is often the the NXT Japan thing is always thrown out. But I think when we look at it so far, I think it's been largely beneficial, and it's obviously very, very early stages. But you look at the successes of this weekend with AJ Styles and Iyo Sky. Obviously huge successes, obviously from kind of a ticket sold point of view, especially for Marigold, their first big pay-per-view. And the match has got rave reviews across social media too. And then in terms of what WWE are getting out of it at the moment, for now, it seems like their focus is on the developmental side of things.
Right.
Obviously, we're going to get into a little bit later in the show the M1 announcements with the NXT talent going over there. It'll be interesting to see whether we get any motion in that same direction in terms of Marigold.
I think
they have
so.
their own tournaments coming up, so I think that's very possible. And if that's kind of their main aim in these partnerships, is kind of lending a big star in return for kind of development in Japan and overseas, then I think that's kind of a very mutually beneficial relationship, and one that doesn't really harm either side much in doing so. When we kind of see further down the line how that's going to pan out, whether we get any more big switches from these companies to WWE long term. We've seen it in AEW, obviously just financially, a much more attractive prospect than working in Japan right now. You've seen the likes of the Ospreys and the Okadas who have worked across AEW and decided to make the jump. So we'll see what happens long term. But I think so far it's positive, but definitely not something to completely write off as something that could get a little bit spooky down the line.
Right. That's the thing, is everybody was initially very apprehensive and understandably so. We saw how things went down with NXT UK and how that dramatically damaged the British wrestling scene to a point that still has not been recovered from. But with that said, seeing these early results, like you just pointed out, I can see that, right. I can see
leave the memories alone.
right. But like when you look at it, right, the Performance Center can only take you so far, I think. And the actual truth of the matter is, in reality, is no matter what you can say about the Performance Center, good, bad, or indifferent, to become a truly great professional wrestler, usually, you need to go wrestle. You need to see the world. And you need reps. And you need to wrestle in different locations in front of different types of live crowds, right? And so I was always of the belief personally that like they should let NXT people branch out and learn and pick up different things in different places. And so I could see WWE's mentality being, and I was actually straight up overtly said, this is like implied to me from a WWE source this morning, that part of the early idea is, look, if we want to throw some of our rookies that we believe in to you, and you can babysit them for us, we'll throw you a star or two to help draw some houses on these big shows. And like you just said, Jamie, that does feel like a win-win. And I think Noah director Takeda agrees as well, because he said as much this morning to Tokyo Sports when he basically suggested that I want to grow this thing to where it's not just like we're relying on each other, but it's just a win-win situation to even have this existing deal long term. So I'll tell you what, man, as a fan, it's resulted in some really cool and novel wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And as a fan, it's just led to some excitement and conversation. And I'd be naive to suggest that, like, oh, this is going to mean like WWE casual fans are just going to now watch like Noah religiously or Marigold. Like, but it has inspired at least some additional conversation and inquiries from fans, and I think that's a good thing, and I think that's cool. What do you think of this whole dealing so far, Monty?
I don't really have any too hot takes, to be honest. I think it's just so far so good. I think, like we said, when all the announcements were getting made, just kind of this thing can be mutually beneficial as it stands, and as we've seen so far, what's been announced and what's already been and gone. But there's always going to be that kind of cautiousness when it comes to WWE and kind of this idea that they're just trying to take over the world, sort of thing, and they're going to kill your company and they're going to kill the country, like just like they did with Brit Rest, like you already brought up. That's the one everyone always brings up. But so far it's been it pretty much has been mutually beneficial. WWE is slowly starting to send talent over there to get some reps and stuff like that. Many of the people you've already mentioned, Charlie Dempsey, Josh Briggs, Tavian Heights in one. So, like I said, not too many hot takes about it, to be fair. It's just kind of wait and see. Like, where are we a year from now? Have any NXT talents actually gone over to Japan, whether that be Noah or Marigold, and, got reps that are actually been worthwhile, and
Right.
have Marigold and Noah had, have they had more Iyo Skies and AJ Styles, or are they now, after like the big, the first couple, they're going to like slow it down a bit and start sending, I don't know,
So
whoever the name is.
Here's where my ignorance comes in, and I'm going to ask Jamie about this, because I know that like promotions like TJPW and DDT, like they're under the same Wrestle Universe streaming banner as like Noah and Marigold, but are they under Abema as well, or no? Do you know?
Marigold.
No. So like DDT and Tokyo Joshi, for example, like are they under Abema?
So I'm not sure. I don't think so, although I'm not sure. So when TJPW and DDT run their big shows, it's kind of almost always the case that it's on Wrestle Universe, right? Whereas Noah, you'll see the Abema pay-per-views. So I'm not 100% sure, but just off kind of what you can tell from the way they run their shows, my assumption would be that it is mainly just Noah under that Abema banner, and that obviously kind of helps with the relationship for sure. They've already got that connection there with that. And obviously there's the whole AEW connection with the DDT and TJPWs of the world too. So
right.
Because
I was trying to sift through those political weeds, you know what I mean? Because WWE, because there are political weeds there. WWE, they're in bed with Abema now in Japan, and I know it is as well. So it made sense that they're kind of now starting to intermingle a little bit and strengthen this thing. I was curious to figure out if it was a viable option to then extend that towards the DDTs of the world and the Tokyo Joshis. But you did remind me that AEW kind of has some furniture in there, and it might be a little dicey. But this will be something we'll continue to monitor, guys, going forward. A super tentative, obviously non-naive, so far so good, but we will absolutely reassess this and reevaluate this in the coming weeks and months. For right now, though, Monty, let's get into Marigold, because their big show finally happened in Sumo Hall. They ran Sumo Hall. This show was headlined by Julia and Sari fighting for the world's title. Really interesting situation. Sari is a freelancer, and Julia is heading towards WWE relatively soon. So where was this one going to go? It's very interesting to look at. But I mean, man, what a show, right? Like what a show in terms of positioning certain people to be very successful in the future, showcasing certain people and really letting you know what they're all about, putting on some great matches, the booking. I just thought this was a very strong event. And I gotta say, it was booked in a way where it's like they tell you who their stars are, and they tell you who you should be looking out for. Even if whether you're familiar with them or you have no clue who you're watching, they will let you know, and you'll leave the show going, oh, so these are the players of Marigold. So I thought this event overall was just absolutely excellent, and the double main event like absolutely delivered. Just broadly speaking, Monty, what did you think of Marigold Summer Destiny?
Rossi Ogawa, he knows how to put on a show. You know, he knows how to promote. He knows how to promote and put on a show, and like the points you already made, how to position things for the future and things like that. Like there's a real, you can kind of see his ideas coming to fruition, you know, on his big shows. So, and in terms of like the quality of wrestling and just the show in general, definite success. You know, they sold a lot of tickets. It was one of the most attended Joe's shows of the year. The most attended Joe's show of the year, wasn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, so it ended up with about 3,058, which is 300 more than Stardom did for All-Star Grand Queendom, which is the second biggest show of the year. It was 5 tickets short of Stardom Dream Queendom from December, which is their biggest show of the year. And obviously that show was main evented by the Micah title win. So, and obviously, you know, they showed the big Iyo boost and a lot of, you know, big time title matches for sure. So, and it's obviously the first, so it's always going to have that boost of being the first of something. But I think from that standpoint, it was a major success. And obviously, when you consider that Noah were running the Budokan not too far away with AJ Styles in the building, I don't think you know, they did too bad at all from a numbers standpoint. But yeah, I don't think it'd be any surprise to anyone watching this to hear that I also absolutely love this show.
Right. I was gonna say, brother, because if I love this, then you must have been over the moon. Because you know what I mean, like it's just top to. I'm looking at the card right now, and it's like it just felt like everything on it had a purpose of some kind, you know, and whether it be to showcase somebody or to set up something creatively for an upcoming tournament or a tag match or what have you. The way they position their belts and distinguish the belts. I love this whole card, to be completely honest with you, and the business end of it, of course, from pretty much the United National Championship qualifying match, which was Miku Aono and Mirai. From that to the end of the show, like you just, it's just a beautiful quadruple header there. But there was some stuff to like in the undercard. I what stuck out to me was the Superfly Championship match between Misa Matsui and Natsumi Shozuki. I wasn't familiar with these two wrestlers at all, and I watched this thing. And in a weird way, to be kind of a normie about it, it kind of reminds me in a not an exact way execution-wise, but it kind of reminded me of Kalani Jordan and Sol Ruka, in that this is an undercard women's title match between two women that clearly have promise, but are not there yet. But here they are having this ambitious match, a singles match, back and forth in front of a big audience, probably the biggest crowd they've ever wrestled in front of, and they really just killed it, I thought. So that was the big one for me. It blew my mind to find out that Shinobu Kandori still wrestles. I found that out watching this show, and I was like, what the fuck? And I Googled her, and she's 59, and it just blew my mind. But take us through some of this undercard, Jamie. Like, there was a time limit draw in the opener, which is some nice little action here. Chika Goto and Koki Amare, they faced Kizuna Tanaka and Victoria Yuzuki. I'm familiar with Yuzuki. She's the big rookie that I was about to say Jay Rossi. Rossi Ogawa was able to bring over to Marigold, but what's the deal here? Who's the big project? Who's the big imminent project out of these 4 women? Is Yuzuki still the one that they're gonna really put a rocket to? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, I think all 4 are worth keeping an eye on. I think Yuzuki, obviously, when she debuted in Stardom last November, she was kind of immediately looking like the best rookie that they'd had since, I want to say, Sai Kamatani. Obviously, you know, we know how big she is now for Stardom, and so she's super impressive for her level of experience. And obviously, she missed a little time away from the ring, with, you know, jumping from Stardom to Marigold too. And then you have Kazuna Tanaka coming in, who's a second generation wrestler, daughter of Yumi Fukawa, who obviously wrestled for Rossi in Asian, and also the daughter of Minoru Tanaka, obviously now wrestling in Greater.
I remember when they pointed that out on commentary, and I pumped my fist. I was like, yeah,
he was in the building, man. He was in the crowd.
Yeah, I saw. Masa Chono was there too, and they randomly cut to him during one of the matches, and he just kind of like had a stoic look on his face, nodding his head with his shades. And I'm just shadow boxing.
Big stars in the building. But yeah,
Big
so
stars.
this was Kazuna's debut. She was unveiled at the press conference the day previous, and they're obviously super invested in her. She's another rookie who's I wouldn't have her right next to Yuzuki, but she's not far.
Okay.
She has a little bit more experience under her belt, but Chikagoto has been super impressive too. I'd say she's actually been more impressive on that side of the tag team.
Right.
Koki is someone they're very, very, very invested in, though. It's been very evident so far that she's going to be a big project for them. She's kind of got all the makings of what Rossi would look for in a big star. So while she's been the least impressive so far, that she's one prime for the future. So
this is pretty much just a rising stars tag here.
Mm-hmm. I thought they all kind of showed out too. I think Kazuna. There was a little ring rust at the start. She'd obviously been away from Wave for a little while. But once she got into it, it was pretty evident that the goal of this one was to kind of make her look like the star of the show. And I think they did a pretty good job with it. But this was ultimately, they have the Twin Star titles, their tag team titles coming up. They've unveiled the tournament for those titles that's going to be taking place, I believe, next weekend. So this draw, I think, was kind of a little preview of what could potentially end up being a final if they go in this direction with the booking. So I like this one as a time limit draw.
This is what we talk about, Monty, when it comes to booking. It's like you give us four young talents here that you're going to build into. You give them a time limit draw in the opener of your big show. It kind of gives you a little vision of a potential matchup in the big tag tournament you got going on. That's just booking. You know what I mean? It's important, man. And what I love about great booking, Jamie, is it helps you make sense of what you're looking at. It helps you make sense of who you're supposed to be focusing on. When you do develop a clear sense of hierarchy and structure, it just makes your promotion so much better. So I respect it tremendously. This match is like a 5.6 on Cage Match, and like it wasn't blow away at all. But like I think that number doesn't necessarily tell the story. Like if you're gonna watch the show, I'd give this one a look if you have time. It's a good opener, and it kind of gives you a nice little window on Marigold's future. Myla Grace and Zeta Steel, they tagged and lost against Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki. I'll be completely honest with you. I fast forwarded this match.
This one I think was pretty much most people's least anticipated going in. But I guess the thing to take away from this is they're aligning Chiaki and Nagisa Nozaki as kind of the clear heels of the promotion so far.
The big bullies. Yeah. I'm Zeta kind of, some fans have kind of given her shit. She's very, very green. Very, very green, but that's what it's about, though. You go out there in a new location and you just kind of figure it out. And you wrestle every day and you get the rep. Did you catch this one, Monty?
I didn't, but like you said, people are, Zeta Steele's I think she's 20, 21.
Like she's so young and she's so new to this. You know what I mean? Like
she's obviously game. She's out there wrestling on these Marigold sumo shows.
And you know what? Whether she's bombing or not, doing it on a big stage is not easy because some people do it away from any viewers. They do it in front of 9 people in the small fucking barn or whatever. So it's kind of like the thing that some of the NXT 2.0 rookies face, where it's like you're just seeing their early stuff right before your eyes and over scrutinizing about it. But I think she has some intangibles, and I think she'll be a good wrestler someday. She's out there grinding and doing her thing. So it'll be a little nicer to Zeta Steel, everybody.
I think she's shown a bit of promise so far. I mean, I wasn't familiar with either her or Myla Grace coming into it. I think she's actually been more impressive than Myla Grace, who has a lot more experience than her.
Right.
Stage.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because it looks like Myla Grace might be sticking around slightly longer than Zeta, and I would like to see her kind of see how Zeta would develop if she stuck around long term. But it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
I think Zeta wants a PC gig.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me when she kind of arrived. She looked like the most NXT wrestler that never wrestled in NXT.
Right.
So it wouldn't shock me at all if that's where she lands. I think she'd do well there.
Yeah. I mentioned this earlier, but the Superfly Championship match between Natsumi Suzuki and Misa Matsui, just good stuff. Like it's that high speed style that they do. Obviously we've been spoiled historically in recent history with people like Starlight Kid and Azumi. So they're not going to be that sharp and that, tight with everything. And so this is a little loose. It's a little kind of like runny and cooperative at the very beginning of this thing, but it turned into a fun match here. And there's some cool dynamic stuff. think Suzuki had like didn't she have like a sliding meteor on the outside or something?
Oh yeah.
Something like that. That was sick. So this is some good back and forth action. I like the name of this belt, the Superfly title. It's just cool. This was the first very good match on the show, in my opinion. Misa Matsui loses she loses to Natsumi Suzuki, who wins this match. Suzuki, formerly of Actress Girls, a promotion I have never watched, but according to all the experts, Rossi Ogawa recruited a lot of their top wrestlers to start this whole project, and I thought she looked great here. So I was a big fan of this. What did you think, Monty? Were you a fan of this Superfly title match?
I wasn't, unfortunately.
But you thought it was ass?
Now, you know what it was? You kind of touched on it a little bit. Especially in the first half of it, just felt so choreographed and play wrestling to me that I was just kind of like, all right, come on, but like you said, I would say more kind of like towards the end of it that he kind of like up the intensity of it. But like I said at the start, it just felt so choreographed and just so like NXT. Do you know what I mean? And it's like.
Well, it's why I compared it to Kalani and Soul.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I understood the comparison straight away, even though that was like a lot more like flashy.
Right.
So it's obviously you're gonna get more clips out of it. Obviously, there was more eyes on it, and it was a huge match for both of them. Obviously this is a lot different, but in terms of the reception to this, really happy to see so many people like it and a good start with. They both do look like decent wrestlers. It just felt too
loose and
just too kind of it lacked kind of lacked that X Factor intensity sort of thing, and it just felt so like cooperative and choreographed at the start for me personally.
I'll tell you this. The high speed style, like when it's like done like at a peak level, it's awesome. But like amateur level high speed stuff does look like shit. And I wouldn't say this is like straight up amateur level, but I get like what you mean when it comes to that, because you do have to kind of like wrestle with intent for it to be good. But I don't know. What did you think, Jamie? Did you find yourself feeling the way Monty did, or were you a big fan of this one?
Oh no, Monty knows I'm on the other end.
Yeah, you were locked in.
Yeah, I was very locked in. I want to kind of make a correction on something you said earlier, where you kind of mentioned that these two are prospects to look out for.
No, they're in their 30s.
Shozuki was in 2010 Stardom. She's been around. Yeah. So she's been around. So she's kind of the veteran. Misa Matsui is an interesting one. She's certainly a prospect, kind of at the beginning of her wrestling career. She's pretty much totally an Actress prospect. An Actress after it kind of rebranded. I can't remember the exact year it happened, but they essentially became play wrestling, which I think is kind of added to the I guess the feel that you guys got from it. They're still kind of a lot of the actor, the solely Actress talents that are coming over are still kind of finding that balance between, making the adjustment to real wrestling, right? So having Shozuki in the mix, I think helps. But I really liked it. I think there's a clear distinction with this Superfly title. It's obviously in the mold of what Stardom's high speed title is, but it's not entirely like for like. And I think you saw that in the style of this match later on. You kind of had the high speed elements early. And it became a bit of a shootout later on, which I think is what they're going for. They're going to have those high speed elements, but it's generally just going to be the mid card title of this promotion, and that's where you're going to have a bit more hard hitting action towards the finish. But I really, really enjoyed this. It was one of my favorite matches on the show. I think Natsumi Shozuki came across like an absolute star, especially by the end. And I think Misa Matsui not winning the title here, I know a lot of people wanted her to, and she's been really impressive so far. Since coming to Marigold, she's won over a lot of fans. But I think the money in her as a babyface is going to be in the chase, and she's got a bright future ahead of her. Whereas Shozuki's kind of on the other end of her career, so I think giving her the belt at this stage is the right move. Yeah, I was a big fan of this for sure.
It's funny you say that. I felt like Jim Ross. When Jim Ross like looks at like a 40-year-old wrestler and is like, the kid's got a lot of size. He got a lot of potential. He has a lot of upside. I'm watching Miku Aono, and I'm like, man, this kid is something. And I look up Miku Aono, and she's like 34, and I'm like, okay. I love wrestling, but I'll tell you what. I don't know what it is specifically, but I was able to identify which of the wrestlers on this card were former Actress Girls wrestlers. I don't know what that means, but it's just something I was just able to like spot. Like I just figured it out. But I was a fan of this. The next match, I thought it kind of ran a little long, to be completely honest with you. The 6-man tag match, where it was Nori, Shinobu Kandori, and Takako Inoue versus Mai Sakurai, Nanae Takahashi, and now Ishikawa. The promotion that the guests are from. What's the name again of this promotion, Jamie?
LLPWX. It's a weird like half promotion. It's
right,
not really.
Right.
I'm not even completely sure that they actually run events, but it
is
allegedly exists. Right?
Is this one of those GLEAT type, like it's not actually real in the Yakuza funded promotions?
I'm not even sure if GLEAT, if you're doing GLEAT justice with that comparison, to be honest. It might be less real than GLEAT. I'm not familiar with anyone who's ever watched an LPW show. But they seemingly have Shinobu Kandori and Takako Inoue on the book. So who am I to judge? And out of the Stardom ran a Legend show last year, and they had a lot of kind of old Japan women's wrestlers on the card, and it was pretty dire, to be honest. But I think out of the old heads we had on that show, Kandori and Inoue kind of stood out as still having it to an extent. So out of all of those that we're going to bring here to Sumo Hall, I was kind of happy to see them make the card.
Yeah, I thought the match was kind of just there. The LLPW ladies win here. I'm sure it's probably something that comes.
So LLPW was founded in 1992.
Yeah,
this is history here, people. They have no ratings on Cage Match. None. No, as a promotion, they have no ratings on Cage Match.
And how does that happen?
I don't know.
How does that even happen?
It's quite impressive for the length of time
they do. They do events though. They do events. They did one at the end of May, and the one before that they did in November of 2023.
Jesus
before
Christ.
that, but before that, they do like, you can't even say an event a year. So May 2024, November 2023, March 2022, and obviously before the pandemic, they did 2 events in 2019. It's a weird promotion, as Jamie's already said.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think in terms of standouts from this match, there's kind of 2 points I wanted to mention. First being Nori, who was a complete kind of non-entity for me going into this. I was kind of not familiar with her at all. I've been informed that she wrestled in Ice Ribbon. But I thought she kind of was the star of the show in this one. She has an MMA background that was kind of apparent in her game. She had a great armbar at one point. So I'd like to see her appear more in Marigold if possible. And then the other thing is Naoya Ishikawa, who is, out of all the talent that were announced for the initial roster for Marigold, she was one I was kind of the least excited for. Not because I dislike her or anything, but there were more exciting names amongst the mix there. And whether by accident or whether it was purposeful, they kind of engineered this story, this perfect underdog story with Naoya Ishikawa. They, on the first poster for the show, they had the first signed crop of talent at the top, and then the actress girls towards the bottom. But Naoya Ishikawa had been swapped with Miku Aono, and it was pretty clear that they saw Miku Aono as the big star. And now was not happy. And she kind of went on a bit of a losing streak until she linked up with Nanae Takahashi, and she was injected with a lot of passion. So she's yet to pick up her first win in a singles capacity, but she's in the tag tournament with Nanae, so she's one to look out for sure.
We're telling stories there, brother. We're telling stories there.
What you got to do to establish, it's the early days of the roster. We want to lay out who's who in this promotion.
Exactly. It's like you got to give these people a thing. What's their thing? What's driving them? What's the thing to look out for them? And for the Ishikawa situation, like you just said, it's like people have counted Ishikawa out, not particularly successful, teaming up with Nanae, and we'll see where that goes. And that's a story to monitor for this upcoming tag tournament. The United National title. So they're doing this tournament, and on this very same night, the winner of this semifinal match was going to go right into a match with Bozilla. So it was like it was a pure video game situation here. It's like you beat the final level, and then you got to have the big boss fight. And so one of these ladies had the misfortune of facing Bozilla in the finals. It was Miku Aono versus Mirai for this distinction. And I'll say this: I was never Parker level with this, but I never really saw it in Mirai in Stardom. Was never a fan. But she has a 24-minute match here, and I gotta say, she just improved or something, because this was pretty good. This was very good, actually. This very good, very dramatic match, especially in the closing stretches with some of the counters and pinfall attempts and things of that nature. Great near falls that I bit for most. I just assumed Mirai was going to win, but they went with Miku Aono, who looked awesome in this match, and she won. And before we go into her clash with Bozilla, Jamie, what did you think of this?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned Parker's thoughts on Mirai, because I tended to agree with him on it. I was never the biggest fan, and it didn't kind of help with the way she was pushed. She won back-to-back Cinderellas. It kind of divided opinion among Stardom fans. But when she arrived in Marigold, she looked more motivated than ever, and I think that's been the case for a lot of the roster, especially the Stardom names coming over. We'll get into a few a bit later, but. So she looked like a completely different wrestler from the off, and it's kind of, it's continued for the past few weeks. And with this white belt tournament that we've had, she's discovered, I think, her best rival in her career. This was the fourth. This was the fourth match between Mirai and Miku Aono in this tournament. They ran 3 draws, all of which went to overtime and went to draws again. The Rossi special. He did the draw so much that it became. You couldn't even knock it. It was just like you just had to see where it was going.
Right.
And usually, draws like of that nature, I wouldn't really be interested in a fourth match in such a short space of time. But they work so well together that I was looking forward to this going in, and they delivered, as you mentioned. Mirai stood out, but for sure, Miku Aono. Like I said, with the Naoya Ishikawa point on the reverse end of that, Miku Aono was kind of handpicked immediately coming over from Actress. As someone who's going to be a major player in this. But even with that being the case, I think going into this, she was kind of the one everyone least expected to come out of the show with the white belt. I think people thought Mirai was a lock for this match, and then it was a bit of a toss-up with Mirai and Bozilla, depending on where it landed in the card. And they went bold. They went with Miku Aono, and then as we're going to get into in the following match, they went even bolder with that win. But I love this one. It started slow, as many Mirai matches did, but once it got kicked into second gear, I thought it was really good.
Were you moved by this, Monty?
I was back up, Hangman. I was moved by this. And I guess kind of the fun thing for, kind of more fans like me and you, Ibu, who aren't kind of like watching all like the road twos and and all the tours and everything. It's like I watch Mirai, and she's a completely different wrestler now.
Yeah, we see these people periodically and incrementally, and they're like notably different and better when you come back to them sometimes. So
yeah, and she looked great here, and I was never kind of because I was never like religiously following Stardom, like her getting kind of the pushes that she was getting never really bothered me. Like I didn't give a fuck, But so but she was never a wrestler that I watched, and kind of she never really caught my eye. But in this match, like I said, looked like a completely different wrestler, and they worked a really well paced match, and it was good stuff, man. It was good stuff. I was moved.
Yeah,
I was moved.
Big shock win there for Miku Aono, and right as that happens, she's exhausted, and she's selling the exhaustion, and the crowd are fired up, and big Bozilla comes in, and you just see her, and she's so imposing and so huge, and she has that jawline that makes her look like, I don't know, like Andre the Giant or something, and you're just like, man, this is just a unique fucking person.
European brother.
Yeah, and just gets in there, and you're like, man, it's over for Miku. She's not winning this thing. She's going to get destroyed, and she was getting destroyed. At one point, she got swung around and then deadlifted. I think it's like a power bomb or something. Like Bozilla was just putting her through the ringer, and she did a Vader bomb, and she attempted a moonsault that was missed. But to be honest with you, I thought the story they were telling here was just, Miku really made it the distance. She just had a previous match. She tried her best. She almost beat the mighty Bozilla, but she failed to do so. It's not what happened. Not what happened at all, because Jamie, she got the shock win on Bozilla, which really made an emphatic statement here that Pro Wrestling Marigold is backing Miku Aono, and this is somebody that is going to be one of the pillars of this promotion. I thought this was a good match. Fairly short, and probably for the best if you're doing a match with Bozilla, who is coming along and looks good, but obviously you're going to expose Bozilla the longer you go. They went 10 minutes, and I think that's probably the right length here. Very dramatic. suspenseful. Bozilla does not get the win. What do you think of this booking decision, and what did you think of this match?
Yeah, I love this one. When Bozilla made their way out, and I posed with Rossi with the white belt, I looked at these two and I thought, oh god, Miku's fucked. She's just wrestled 25 minutes, and then this absolute beast is making her way into the ring. And then the match kind of played out as I expected, largely for the first few minutes. You talked about the kind of dominance that Bozilla had. She's an absolute freak of nature, man.
Man.
Pull out missile drop kicks and moonsaults, and obviously, as you mentioned, she's not completely there, but you wouldn't expect her to be at this level of experience. She still has, under kind of roughly around 30 or so career matches, if that, maybe. She had about 20 coming into Marigold, so it depends how many she's worked since then. And yeah, when I kind of looked at who was going to be gunning for this white belt title, and I think a lot of people had Bozilla earmarked for it, and I thought, I like that booking decision. I like it when a promotion kind of picks someone and really, goes with them. And I thought that was going to be Bozilla, but to my surprise, I was happy to see it. The person they really went with as a shock was Miku Ano. And it's, as we're going to see as well with who came away with the red belt later, it was a statement. It's, you see in, the top champions of this promotion now, we have these former Stardom names in the mix, but they've gone with someone who, unless you were following an Actress girls, religiously, which maybe about 5 people did. I don't think people would be familiar with Miku Ano, but she's impressed a lot, and she's clearly someone they're super invested in. So I think it's an exciting move, and the match, was kind of as expected, largely. Miku kind of tried to take the legs from under the big giant as we kind of got later into the stretch, and then pulled out the shock win. So obviously not quite as good of a match as the previous, but it was never going to be. But in terms of the booking decision, I thought they made the perfect choice here. So I'm excited to see where they go with Miku Ano and with Bozilla as well, because they told that story of her kind of taking the eye off the ball a little bit. It was kind of her inexperience and lack of awareness that led to the
classic
led to that defeat, and it was her first pinfall loss in a singles capacity since coming to Marigold. So it's a big one. We'll see where she goes from here. She's obviously been heavily protected, but it wasn't a definitive win by any means, and I think they're saving that for a big match down the line for sure.
Absolutely. What do you make of Big Boss losing this match, Monty?
I didn't like it, but I'm not following it enough to be kind of to really break it down as a booking decision.
Yeah, right.
But Bozilla, everyone kind of thought going in, is that she was kind of circled from the beginning, from the moment she stepped into Marigold to be kind of this unstoppable giant, and she does have some hints of greenness or whatever you want to call it, inexperience and stuff. So maybe they kind of got a little bit gun shy, with just going full steam ahead with Bozilla, But from what I've seen of her, man, it's I want to go full steam ahead, Bozilla. I'm on the Bozilla hype train, and she should win it all. She's something else. So she really is like a physical specimen, bro. Like the shotgun drop kicks, the moonsaults, the physical presence.
That middle rope drop kick out the corner is crazy,
bro. It's terrifying.
Oh my god,
she's something else. When it comes to that shit, and it's just one thing that I always look for, especially if I'm watching kind of a foreign promotion like this, or even like NXT with all these NIL athletes coming through, and it's the same thing I looked at with Obafemi. It's it's all well and good being huge built and strong and whatnot, but it's can you carry yourself, and do you have that presence? How quickly do you pick up that presence? And when someone picks up that presence, and that the kids call aura, very early in their early 20s, like a Bozilla, like a Obafemi, it's very, very, very promising, because when you have those physical attributes and that physical presence like those two have, it's you only need to you don't need to be a work rate person, it's kind of like a cheat code, So she really is a specimen, and maybe I'm sure she's going to win many titles and do many great things under Rossi Ogawa, and who knows, actually, she could get picked up pretty soon, because she does jump off the page that much,
She's reportedly done in January, potentially. So
yeah, it's what I mean. So it's like if she could be picked up in January immediately because she just jumps off the page that much, and you're having these WWE like collaborations on the show. So it's like people from WWE fans, etc. They are obviously not all, like you mentioned earlier, a bit about like you're not expecting everyone to be tapped into Noah and Marigold now, but of course some people will. Some people will see the clips, and some people will see highlights and stuff like that. There will be hype behind Bozilla. There just will, there already is, and that will just continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. So, but Miku, she's good, but
Mhm.
Bozilla's something else,
Yeah.
He's
I hear it, but I think as kind of following each and every single one of these shows, Miku's someone I'm very invested in. I think when you talk about Bozilla's long term future, she's definitely not long for Marigold, whereas Miku is very very locked in. So I hear the points on Bozilla, and I would have been more than happy to have seen her walked away with this white belt. But in terms of investments for the future, man, Miku I know is going to be a huge star. She's going to be a future red belt champion without a doubt. In this promotion, she's already super popular with the crowds. In fact, I thought it was interesting going into the Mirai match. It started off with Mirai chants, and then as we went into the Bozilla match, it was Bozilla chants. But right by the end, towards the finishing stretch, it was Miku chants in Sumo Hall. So she won them over, and that's what she's been doing since she came in. So she's a big star, definitely. Kind of in the here and now, but definitely in terms of for the future. So I like this one for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, before we get into the big two, we've built up like 10 super chats, so let's take a quick super chat break. So get them in right now, before we take another break. Jan Theodore, $2 Canadian. Sari, for the love of God, Sari.
Wrestler of the year. Wrestler of the year.
She's best. She's like best in the world level. She's like amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Amazing.
So I had that. We're going to get into it in a little bit. But I had her earmarked as she was in the running for Women's Wrestler of the Year next to Mayu Iwatani, very early on into the year. But when she started working Marigold and she got on kind of a regular schedule, it's when she kind of lapped the competition pretty much. And now, I'll give her more than the Women's Wrestler of the Year. She's the Wrestler of the Year altogether. I don't think anyone's close, to be honest. I think she's in a league of her own. It's insane. It's insane. We're going to see. She obviously closed out Sumo Hall in this one, and she's going to be locked in for the future. It looks like, but what a talent!
Oh
she's
man,
very spiteful as well. She's very spiteful lady.
Yeah.
Murph, I'm not singing this with Murph. I'm sorry, but 4.99. We do appreciate and love you. Jamie Ross, I just don't think you understand. He loves the Joshi rest, Scouse, and just the best. We've got Jamie Ross.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, we love my former Dumb Guy Live colleague Murph. So we stopped Dumb Guy Live just before Marigold kind of kicked off, which was devastating for me. But it also meant I didn't have to deal with Murph, who would have been very spiteful. I think those at some point if we continue that partnership. But yeah, it's good to see him in the chat.
Darren Walker, £5. Appreciate you as always. When Julia comes to NXT, I can't wait to see her versus my star girl, Miss Jada Parker, in a street fight. Even Meltzer will rate it 5 stars.
I don't know about 5, but she's gonna have a lot of plunder matches because NXT loves women's plunder matches anyway, and no one has ever made this comparison, so I'm going to do it now. Julia has some Sabu in her, and she's closer to Sabu than she is to Manami Toyota. Let's just say. I'm looking forward to seeing her in NXT.
Closer to New Jack. Yeah.
She literally did Cactus Jack's table pile driver in the Sari match. So yeah, expect more of that. Expect a lot of game jumping off things into tables and other paraphernalia. Expect kendo stick shots with her and Roxanne. They're probably gonna have a 2-match series, where the second one is gonna be at a big premium live event where they're going to be using weapons and things of that nature.
God bless. And that's the salt and $2. Women's wrestling got to be my favorite gender, for real.
Women's wrestling is a good place.
I've spoken on it a couple of times, but like when it hits that top level, like I don't think there's anything better in wrestling, to be honest. But obviously, it happens like once every couple of years. Like I'm talking those truly like moving matches, you know.
I was very electrified by Iyo yesterday on Saturday, and I remember the feeling watching Charlotte and Rhea live, and that last 10-minute stretch, how they just took us to All Japan, and it was like, well, my goodness, you know.
It's also it's what I said last week, bro. It's that like you can see the chip on the shoulder, like when they start getting like super physical, and it's like you got like the match you just mentioned, Charlotte and Rhea. It's like you had full stadium Charlotte in full effect, you know, like.
Yeah.
And Rhea's just obviously she's there for a big moment, a big title win, and it was a special night. Anyway, Corey David $2, Charlie Dempsey doing Bloodsport, TNA did All Japan.
Yeah, he just got announced for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport show in I want to say Brooklyn at the end of the month. He will be joining the Creed brothers and Shayna Baszler on this show. Interesting stuff there. They should you know what I'd do, Jamie, if it was me? I'm putting the Creeds in a tornado tag Bloodsport match against the Astronauts and just seeing what the fuck happens. I don't know if that's gonna be good. It will just be funny.
You know
the Bloodsport match.
Exactly what I'm saying. Just a tornado tag Bloodsport match.
You know what that reaction is going to be like that when that match gets announced. There's going to be a lot of people excited, and then there's going to be the panic when they realize they actually, when Nick Khan spotted in the crowd or some shit. You know, there's going to be uproar.
No.
Dangerous man that Nick Khan is.
Nick emerged through the being like, Mr. Nomura.
And he's mysteriously not spotted again after that match. He's
never seen again.
Yeah. Those Mania weekend pictures were nasty.
That was something. $2. Who gets which title with Julia Vaquer in NXT?
I'm gonna say Vaquer gets the North American and Julia gets the world title.
Yeah.
Manchester 94 199. Bozilla and Hater. Fate equals female version of Andre and Hanson.
Sure. That's beast.
Corey David $2. I need Oba, Sol Ruka, Bron, Jada Parker. I need them doing Japan reps, basically.
Listen,
so Sol's an interesting one. I think if you're going to get people in the Marigold Dreamstar Grand Prix, the round robin tournament that Marigold announced, similar to how we're getting a few NXT names in the M1. Sol Ruka, I think, is like the perfect pick as someone who'd be massively, she'd benefit from that. I think she's kind of got the potential already there. You see, kind of the athleticism and stuff. She kind of work on her game in Japan, learn that style as we were talking about, which kind of all top wrestlers I think need to do at some point. Then I think she could be going place for sure. And obviously she's not locked in to anything crazy big right now in NXT, so I don't think it should be a huge loss unless I'm mistaken. But I think she could be one to head over.
Jamie, that's like an actual productive send somebody over and because she's like she has so much upside. She has that kind of Bianca athleticism. She feels like in 3 years she'll be like a great wrestler, actively just great wrestler. I think if she does that and does that Grand Prix tournament, wrestles like multiple times a week, it would really help her. Because we see the big highlights and the gifts and stuff, but like if she could really fortify the stuff underneath that and really kind of like come out of this with a solid learning experience, it'd be fruitful. Like you could throw a Fallon Henley or a Izzy Dane, but it's like, what's that gonna do? You know what I mean? To me, throw one of your big horses that you're likely gonna make big time money with in 2 years. Send one of them and see what happens. I would straight up send Sol Ruka.
Yeah, if you're gonna make that investment, it's gotta be someone they've got long term prospect for. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you already said, it's got to be productive. And, man, it's kind of fascinating to me because it's like you've got all these PC talents and they're used to working with fellow PC talents, and you just send them over to Japan and it's like there's the language barrier and there's all these different things that they'll have to navigate. So it's quite the challenge for them if they ever do it, So it fascinates me from that aspect, especially when it's someone like Sol Ruka has such dynamic offense. It's like, how do you translate that across? How does she translate to Yuzuki that yo, I'm about to hit you with this soul snatcher right
Well,
now.
I'll tell you what, Monty,
Like,
what if she just strips it back and just wrestles over there, and then she brings back that wrestling back to NXT where she could implement the
that could be that could be really cool and productive as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, man. And PN $2, appreciate it. Has Ibu filed the Unk AI apology form? Hashtag why?
No, Uncle Allen, AJ Styles.
Uncle Alan. Is this what we're calling him now? Uncle Al.
Yeah, Uncle Allen. That's what Carl Anderson calls him. But look, AJ Styles is incredible, and he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And I foolishly said some incendiary things about him last year. And look, I stand by the fact that he was doing some uninspired stuff, but he came back all jacked up, and this year has been his version of Samoa Joe's 2023. I mean, we saw it in flashes in some other match. Like he had that 4-way on SmackDown, or no, that 3-way on SmackDown with Randy Orton and LA Knight. That was awesome. He had the 3-way with Kevin Owens and Rey Mysterio. That was awesome. The LA Knight matches themselves were pretty good, but then it just exploded from there because my goodness, the Cody match in France was terrific. The Randy Orton match in the King of the Ring on SmackDown was awesome. The Cody rematch was very good, and then now this fucking Marufuji match that we're about to get into shortly. He's having a hell of a year, and look, man, AJ Styles is not a washed wrestler. He is absolutely not a washed wrestler. I was incorrect in that assessment, and I'll repeat it again on air if people have missed it. AJ Styles, I apologize to you. You are a good Republican man and a great wrestler.
Never mind the washed allegations, because obviously that was ludicrous. But even the Kurt Angle debates, I thought were slightly ludicrous at one point. This is AJ Styles we're talking about. I love Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is one of the greats.
Wait, hold on now.
AJ Styles, brother.
Hold on now, Jamie. You know,
this is
I'm not gonna have 2000s baby.
You're outnumbered. You're outnumbered.
You gotta understand who you're dealing with. This
is fucking bullshit. You know.
Yeah.
This is fucking bullshit. I gotta say.
That gold medal merchant can't lace AJ's boots, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
Jan Theodore, $2. All in at Dallas 2025, or we're getting Selfie Cars. I don't think it's going to be all in, unfortunately, judged off the early impressions. But we'll see. It could be like a forbidden door. It could be, I don't know. But the impression I'm getting is not all in.
It wouldn't shock me at some point if they do move away. You know, I imagine at some point they're going to move away from Wembley for all. And I don't think it's sustainable to do it every year. You know, I know the UK fan base absolutely love wrestling and they'll show up for everything. But you know, gets to a point where if they keep raising the ticket prices and you keep running Wembley, it's not going to be as successful as it is every single year. I don't think. And they can still run the UK once a year, but maybe switch it up a little bit. So if All In does move venues and you get a big stadium show in America, you know. I think that's definitely something that could happen, but not too sure yet whether that would be next year for Dallas. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what AEW's got cooking. It could be a new show, it could be anything, because we all know that they've gone through like this process over the past year or so of like expanding their calendar. Yeah. So you know their deal's coming up soon. Who knows if they get onto some sort of pay-per-view deal, and you know they want to do 12 pay-per-views a year or whatever they want to do. So. We'll see what they got cooking. Maybe it will be all in, but like I said, early indication is it's not all in. Mazfan 84 199 match of the year so far? ? Bucks Derby Sting is still mine.
Great question.
I'll need my memory refreshed, so I'll let you two kind of just throw the matches out there.
I'll name the ones that I like the most. That's among them. The CMLL versus BCC tag in Arena Mexico was up there for me. I love that dearly. What else? I'll tell you what, this EO match that we're gonna get into right after these super chats has a special place in my soul. So I'm gonna throw that one out as well. Cody Roman was just it just made me happy. You know, it just made me happy. What else, man? My goodness. Ospreay versus Takeshita at Revolution was spectacular, as was Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson. So those two are up there. And to stay with Ospreay, fucking Ospreay and Swerve also good. Man, his last 3 big pay-per-view matches have all been, it's what you expect out of him, of course, but moved me at the highest level. So those are just some of the best matches of the year, in my opinion, or at least my favorites.
Yeah, my match of the year was Suri versus Mayu
Judah.
Watani, which I think is I think it's the greatest of all time versus the best in the world. Those two. My new match of the year is we'll get into it in the next segment.
Awesome. Thank you, Mass fan.
Yeah, I don't know what mine is. Like, I'm looking through my spreadsheet now, and it's like, oh, nah. But I've been stingy this year. Anyway, one last super chat before we finish off at Marigold show. Anjan PN $2. No one must sue the Fed for those N1 entrants. This is a good one.
I'm gonna circle back to this when Tavian Heights is 3.5 with like someone like Manabu Sawyer or some shit, and people are like, wait a minute, So
I know people don't like Briggs, but he can work and he's big, So
right,
whatever, he's not exciting. I get it. Like I get it,
Yeah. So the business end of this Marigold card, Iyo Sky returns to Japan for the first time since 2018. She's donning the Queen's Quest mask, as is Utami Hayashida. And Utami never got a chance to face her because Iyo left shortly after her debut. Big time dream match here. Utami's at the top of her game. Iyo Sky, can she still show that she's the woman that left Japan? The answer to this question was yes, and we found this out like minutes within this match because very, very quickly into this match, Jamie, there was a snap to her work and a foot speed and a velocity and just a sense of just reckless abandon, but also it just felt like she was like on an elite level, like she just turned something on, and it kind of stunned me how it was very clearly just a turn on thing, like a switch flip thing. Like sometimes people go back to an old setting and it's like, can I do it? Or they feel their way out, or they figure it out. She was just kind of like, all right, I'm in this mode now. You know what I mean? And it was like, my goodness. Great back and forth action. The early parts of this were an Iyo showcase. When it comes to her big moves and offense, she did her dive. She did that kind of her missile drop kicks were on point in this match. The shoteis that she was doing late in the match. She busted out a tombstone pile driver in this match. She did the moonsault, like I said, an Ori Hara to the outside. Great back and forth action. But yeah, the early parts of this were an Iyo showcase. Utami fired back with her stuff later on, and then we just got some great counters toward the end. But this was just electrifying. I saw this twice. Watching it live, I was like, man, this is really fucking good. When it ended, I was like, no, it's over. And I watched it back, and I was like, this is even better than the first time. It just felt very special. Iyo came off like a massive star. Utami, the story that they're telling basically is that like there's still a mountain to climb here, and you're still not at the level of Iyo. And she lost, and she looked like really worse for wear. She had like bruises on her face and shit. And Iyo was very much coming off unscathed and talking to her like, yeah, like ruffling her hair, so to speak, like, just follow your dreams and just do your best and da. And you could tell like the way they were portraying this thing. Utami's like, man, like that's Iyo, like that's Iyo Shirai, and I still got a ways to go. But the cool little note here is that towards the entranceway, Iyo does to collapse a little bit, which kind of shows that no, Utami did put up a big fight. Iyo just kind of was no-selling it and trying to play it off like she was cool. But the dramatic irony of the story is no, Utami, the gap isn't as wide as Utami would believe it is. But a hell of a match here in the semi-main. The best women's match of the year, in my personal opinion. And what a return for Iyo. I think she's been having a great year. I'm not surprised by this because she's already had a great year, and she's had some really nice recent matches on Raw. So it doesn't shock me that this was just like next level. And that's what I thought this was, next level. What did you think, Monty?
You want what I love about these kind of like special matches that we get, and it's whether it's an AEW New Japan crossover or whether it's a crossover like we got this week, and it's like you kind of really get to see certain wrestlers in their element, and there's levels to it as well. So AJ absolutely knows what he's doing in Japan, but there's a certain level where someone who truly, like spent. Like they grew up in Japan, they grew into a star in Japan, And I know AJ had like a really important pre-WWE run in Japan, but he was AJ Styles, But it's just like you see Iyo out there, and it's just kind of like it's like she never left, She's so comfortable out there, and she just knows exactly where to go with it in terms of like the reaction she's getting and how to kind of play into the opponent she's facing in that moment. She's it really popped to me as well, seeing how much she enjoyed it. Like you could visibly see how much she was enjoying just being back wrestling in Japan and the novelty of it, and just being so revered. It was great to see, man. I loved the match. Utami, of course, it was huge for her. Little dream come true. Like we always throw around the term dream match because shit we want to see. You know, this was like the combination of both. So it was kind of like there was like that heartwarming element to it, like you guys have already mentioned. You know, this was a special match and it was a special occasion. You know, Iyo back in Japan doing her thing, like she never left, but now she's this star that's like so idolized, you know, not just because of the run that she had in Japan. It's always a big thing to people in Japan when someone can go to WWE and be as successful as an Iyo or an Asuka, or look at the reaction Shinsuke was getting last year. You know, we look at Shinsuke these days, it's like, yeah, he's in the mid card, and they kind of missed the moment with him when he won the Rumble and he didn't win the world title and blah blah blah, and it's a shame. But he goes back to Japan, he's a fucking rock star, bro. It's like it's different, you know. I mean, just to touch on Iyo being in her element again, it's like it kind of reminded me of Kenny when he faced Ospreay at the Tokyo.
Oh yeah,
when it was just kind of like, this is like different, you know. Like I
Yeah.
said, like AJ, he looked super comfortable out there. He knows what he's doing, and he looked fucking awesome, you know. But there was just something different about the way Iyo was carrying herself through this match, you know, and it was, like I said, it was special.
Jamie.
Yes,
Brother.
this was
Iyo was back. Not Iyo Sky. Iyo Shirai was back, brother. What did you think?
It was like she never left.
Yeah,
I like the Monty mentioned dream match, and we've had a few big ones in Joshi Wrestling this year. The Suri and Mayu one was definitely a big one. Obviously, last year we had Mayu and Mercedes, and I think when you look at kind of what we had left on the kind of the wish list for big Joshi matches, this was the big one. So we finally got it. It was something I didn't think we'd ever see until Iyo kind of came back, maybe towards the end of her career full time. But with the way Marigold's kind of, struck up this partnership with WWE, it became a possibility. Straight from the entrances, it was incredibly special. The Queen's Quest mask. I was pissing on Taro Okada's grave. This was, what a moment. Obviously, the backdrop to this Queen's Quest had disbanded shortly before. Obviously, these two former Queen's Quest leaders. So that was definitely a moment there. And once the bell rung, you know, I said it was like she was never away. She is the best. I think she's consistently the best women's wrestler on WWE or just American TV in general, by quite some distance. But even then, I knew she had those gears to go up. It was just going to be a case of whether she did, right? And she, she did it immediately. It was apparent that this was Iyo Shirai. She was pulling out, moves that we haven't seen from her in 6+ years. She's doing those crazy dives to the outside, the tombstones. She went up top for a moonsault, and I was almost questioning whether she was going to pull out the moon stomp, which we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
That would have been a step. That would have been a tad over.
Oh my God, Jamie. She ran straight towards Utami and did a jump. She jumped right into it and did a snap West Coast pop. And I was just like, my God, you know what I'm talking? Like she didn't have to springboard into it or set just running standing, just ran towards it and just flipped right into it. And I was just like, what is this Vikingo shit?
It's frightening. Like I say, we see how good she is on a week-to-week basis, but the gear switch and the levels she went up in this were insane. And Utami, but absolutely matched her in that. I said I did a few previews of this on a few other places, but Utami's best work comes with when she's kind of allowed to be the powerhouse against kind of smaller, quicker opponents, and she's allowed to be a bit more physically dominant. And obviously, she was still the underdog in this match, but with that dynamic and the style that Iyo works, she was kind of in her element in that, and she absolutely stepped up to the plate in this one. She had a lot of great moments there. There was a huge kind of German from the top rope. I remember they got a big reaction from the crowd, and it was, I had WWE fans who watched this show who were big fans of Iyo Sky, and they came away from it asking me about Utami Hayashida, which is cool. Yeah. We talked about that not everyone's going to have that, and not every single WWE fan's going to tune in, but the ones that did, I think they were left incredibly impressed, and that's what you want, right? So I think it was kind of a home run on all fronts. Iyo was obviously going to be the winner from this, and I think that's the right call. I think you're telling that story with Utami, and she's going to kind of rise to the level of being what I think is going to be the ace of this promotion.
Yes.
But she's having that initial setback, and she still has a ways to go before she reaches the level of Iyo Sky. But like you said, Ibu, it's she's not as far away as she perceives it to be. So I think
Right.
whether we hopefully we get this, we'll see how this kind of relationship pans out between WWE and Marigold. Whether we see this match again in the future, how far in the future that would be, I'm not too sure. But if we ever run this back and Utami gets that big win, I think that'll be a moment. But as a moment in itself, this one was everything I hoped it would be and more. And just with the in-ring and the added kind of the backstory and the feeling with this one, this became my match of the year pretty quickly. I love this.
I love
Go on, Bill.
And my bold prediction, I think Iyo will be back. I think Iyo will be back.
Yeah, for sure.
I think she'll push for it, and I think Rossi will push for it. And the truth of the matter is, part of why Rossi really wanted a WWE connection in the first place, realistically, it was, among other things, it's so that he could have access to Iyo Sky. We could throw in a Kyrie on the future show and this and that, but really, the golden goose was Iyo Sky. And it was almost one of those things like, brother, you give me her a few times a year, or at least 1 to 2 times a year, and you can do whatever the fuck you want with whatever else I got going on. You can have Julia. I can throw a Bozilla in this trade package for you in January, whatever the fuck. Give me some Iyo. And we saw why. This is LeBron James hitting your team. This was elite. This is a triple-double. It's the charisma.
Where do you think? Don't you think it's interesting to look at Sari as like all-time case at this point? Because if you look at the legacy she's building, because like what she did in Japan is like undisputable,
Mm-hmm.
and we're still kind of, when you look at it in like a broad sense, it's like we're not even that deep into a US run on the main roster. Her NXT run was a resounding success. And the way that she's came along onto the main roster to being a world champion, having a sustained run.
Iyo or Sari? Because you said Sari. You mean Iyo, correct?
I said Iyo?
No, you said Sari.
Okay. Well, Iyo scored.
He just totally threw me. I was like, what?
I knew what he meant.
I realized it when he said his NXT run was a success. Her NXT, I was like, no, who are you talking about? But yeah.
Yeah, Iyo scored, of course. That's what I'm talking about. I wasn't even thinking about Sari, so that's throwing me off. Anyway, yeah. So back to my point, her main roster run as well so far has been like it's been a success. Like even if you look at what she just done with Bayley at Mania, and look at the title reign that she had leading up to it, and just the fact that she was able to get to the point where she won a world title. Because there's always going to be kind of like. It's different, when you're coming over from Japan, Stardom, or wherever, and you do the whole NXT thing, and she managed to get over kind of like the hurdles where some other wrestlers, like Shinsuke, like we were just talking about, he's never been a world champion, I don't know, man. I think, and she's still going. That's the thing, It's like it's not like Iyo Sky's winding down, but nah, she's a global superstar now,
Right.
And it's like she's just gonna keep building and building and building and building. I just think in terms of like an all-time case, I think she's just an interesting one to look at because I think she's quite, she don't get mentioned as much as like a Mercedes or someone,
That's a great point. And she's like, at this point, Iyo is absolutely, like, almost inarguably one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's nice that you pretty much brought up the fact that like it may be time to start having those conversations because they don't really happen with her, but she's like right. And when it comes to this modern legendary women's wrestler, she's right there with a lot of the ones that people mentioned. And this match was just an absolute treat. Another match was an absolute treat was the main event, which sadly didn't get the same level of hype because it had to follow this. But I thought they did turn in a hell of an effort here. I thought it was Julia and Sari fighting in the main event here for the world title. And to me, the way I evaluate this, because some people were kind of like a little down on it, but I thought this was a hell of a championship main event. Julia is not the gifted technician that Sari is, and her work isn't as sharp or snappy or pretty as Sari's is. And she doesn't work with all this detail and nuance. But what she makes up for that with is beyond just the aura and the charisma, is she has like a great sense of fire, and she knows how to inject her matches with feeling, especially in the closing stretches. Kind of similar in a different way to like how Becky Lynch does it in her matches in WWE, or even like a CM Punk does the same thing, where they're not like, you know, mechanically so fucking smooth, but they know how to make you like feel. And I think Julia can make you feel. And in the closing stretches, she just goes, I'm just gonna be a meathead. I'm gonna be a meathead. I'm gonna take some really dangerous bumps. I'm gonna do some dangerous daredevil shit. And in the closing stretch, I'm just gonna be an absolute meathead, Kurt Angle style, gonna spam finishers and kick out and show fire and show passion and desire and hunger and tenacity. And that's what this was. I thought Sari kind of guided the early portions, just being a textbook excellent professional wrestler. And then Julia took it to the streets, and then they got a little dangerous and wacky with it. And then in the closing stretch, they just did a bunch of finishers and kicked out. And I've been on every single one of them because the moves that they're doing to each other are just absolutely devastating. So kind of a bit of a shock here. They worked Julia's hand. Sari got vicious, and she kind of targeted the hand at the end there and was wrenching on it until the referee stopped the match, and that was the finish. Sari, who is a freelancer, is currently your first Marigold world champion. And while not as good as the Iyo match, I thought this was an excellent match, and probably the second or third best match of the day from Japan. What did you make of this one, Monty?
I really like this because I just kind of really like Julia matches because of kind of the reasons you just outlined. It's like, yeah, she's not a mechanic in there, you know. She's not smooth. She's not this beautifully polished wrestler, you know. But she's game as fuck, bro, and she's got grit and she's rough around the edges. And one thing I really appreciate about her is that she's like really present. So even though the fact that she's not like this smooth operator like a Sari who she was in there with, or many of the other Joshi talent that are very like, you know, hyped up and respected, you know, like they're a lot more, they have better fundamentals and they're just better technically than Julia is. But she has her ideas of what she wants to do and she kind of does them, you know. She doesn't like it's not, I don't know, man. She's just not phony, you know. Like it doesn't matter that she's not this super polished technical master in the ring, you know, because she has good ideas. She knows what she wants to do, what she wants to portray, and she does it. And sometimes it might look a little bit rough around the edges or a little bit ugly, but it kind of has like a cool, intense charm to it, you know. So yeah, I just really like Julia, and I thought this was really good as well. So. Sari, of course, is just like phenomenal, you know. She can be really spiteful when she needs to be, and yeah, I really like this match. I wouldn't say it was my favorite match on the show, just because of just Iyo in an element pops me, but that was probably the only thing that like kind of pushed it over for me. Even though watching Iyo versus Utami, I know I'm watching like a better match that's going to get a better rating on Cage Match sort of thing, but there was just something that gripped me about this Julia Sari match.
I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of the general stance on Julia altogether. I think is like if you like her, you know, her kind of style usually pushes things over the edge. But some people are kind of the opposite end of that. You know, I can be very critical of Julia's kind of rough around the edges style and her tendencies, but I think you got the best of it in this match for sure. I think you started off kind of slower, which, you know, Julia matches tend to do. She has kind of you know, there's a bit of Hideki Suzuki in her early matches. She trains a lot with Hideki, and you see the grappling attempts that she goes for. But when she gets spiteful and when she gets physical, especially when they get to the outside, and you know, there's a bit of plunder involved and stuff, that's when she's really in her element, and she's really you know, there's an intensity and physicality there that kind of makes her kind of unique in the Joshi scene. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that translates in WWE. She obviously undoubtedly has the star power, but how her kind of in-ring style, and we'll see how that adjusts. Well, obviously while she's down there in NXT. But if she's going to have that intense physical match, there is no one in the world currently better to do it with her than Sari, who, as I already mentioned, when we had that super chat, is in a league of her own right now. And when she does get spiteful, she's an absolute monster. But by the late portion of this match, when they were just really going for it, you know, and they kicked it into second gear, it was incredible. When she's wrenching on that arm, and the referee called the stoppage. I know that some people didn't fully like the finish, but I think establishing that intensity, and especially with her as a champion, she's an outsider champion. When they kind of did the closing show address with all the wrestlers in the ring, Suri was the only one who kind of didn't really join in. She's very clearly being positioned as like an outside force in this push, which I think is exciting. Obviously, when you have someone the caliber of talent of Suri added in with that kind of the motivation from the rest of the roster to kind of knock her off that perch, right? It's going to be interesting how it plays out. But I was interested going in with the booking decisions we highlighted earlier. Julia's leaving for WWE, Suri's not signed, so it was a bit of a toss up. But I think they made the absolute right decision. Whether Julia ever gets that belt now, it looks a little bit unlikely. I don't think she's sticking around too much longer. So it's a shame. She obviously wants to be a big part of Marigold, and it's the injury was very unfortunate. Definitely affected kind of the build towards this match. But I absolutely loved it. I love what they were able to do by the end of it. And Suri is your first Marigold World Champion. I don't think it gets better than that. And with the Dreamstar Grand Prix coming up, I think we're going to get some exciting big time matches down the line with Suri.
Yeah, I just loved Julie's reaction also to losing. She was so broken.
Oh yeah.
It broke her heart that she couldn't take this one home for the fans and win this title. Like the fact that she allowed an outsider to do this thing, it really, really was frustrating. And it just made it seem like, man, like this is all or nothing. It's everything, and that's what I want out of my pro wrestling. So I loved this main event, and I loved the presentation following the match. And I think all in all, we can all agree that Marigold Summer Destiny was a phenomenal wrestling event. So kudos to the team over there. Sadly, we're running out of time here, so we can't go in depth and match by match, but we'll hone in on AJ Styles and Naomichi Marufuji. Before we do, I'm gonna ask Monty. We're gonna go around the room, and what matches stood out to you from the Noah show? Because I thought this was the best Noah show in the cyber fight era. So consistent, so dense, with good wrestling. Pretty early in this card, like you don't have to go that far to get some good shit, and it just goes from there all the way to the end here. And I love this show. And before I rant and talk everyone's ear off about the stuff I loved, I'm going to toss it to Monty first. What did you think of Noah Destination, and what were some of the things in the undercard or just matches surrounding some of the major ones that kind of spoke to you?
This was some RNS. This was some real nigga shit, Ibu. This was fucking Keno versus Eugene Nagata on like the second match. Just some realness, just fucking. It wasn't even anything special. It was just fucking. It was just. Oh man.
He should stick around, shouldn't he? Blue Justice. He's in
he should wrestle.
He showed it in that. He had the All Japan title reign last year. He's still got it at the top level, man.
Just do it.
He's an animal. He's an animal, bro. And he just gets it, Yeah. And speaking of another fucker that gets it, Saito, going up against Gold Shield.
Yeah, I'm gonna park right there. This is this beautiful closure, folks. I mean, Akitoshi Saito and Go Shiozaki found themselves in opposite ends in 2009 in the tag match that inevitably was Misawa's last, because Saito did a back suplex to Misawa and he passed away because of his neck basically shattered. And Go Shiozaki was Mitsuharu Misawa's young boy. He was the chosen one to lead Noah into the future. And Saito was a regular, a veteran, lived with the guilt of being the one that was blamed for this accident. And he's somebody that over the years forged a rivalry and a mutual friendship and respect of Go Shiozaki. And here he is, an old bastard, a little worse for wear.
Got out,
pissed off, old.
Just looks like shit. Let's be honest,
Total crap. He's wearing like the type of pants I'd wear going to sleep, and like just out there with Go Shiozaki. Now they're both veterans. They're at the end of the road, especially Saito in particular. And they're in the Budokan, the house that Misawa built in truth. And they just kind of hit each other and chop and kick each other and
paced it well and sold.
Cage match thought it sucked.
What to leave.
The liberals on Cage Match thought it was like a nothing match. I thought it was beautiful. After the match, Akitoshi Saito retired. And it's just beautiful closure, like wrestling is Wrestling is just lovely. So I second that one, Monty. I can tell you
Beautiful. That was some fucking real shit. That was. Anyway, I didn't watch all that dagger nonsense.
It was good. That I'll tell you what. I don't even.
Oh
like
my god. Hold on.
I'll say this.
No, fuck him. Don't want to hear it. We got to an important thing here.
Go ahead. Daga versus Amakusa was pretty fucking awesome.
Galeno del Mar.
Woo!
Oh yeah.
Woo! I need to sell some shit to buy some stocks. You know, this is Obafemi levels of interest from the Montel WrestlePurists.
He's a big boy, man. He's a big boy.
We're talking 6'4", 300 pounds. Just Mexican heritage.
I'm gonna pop you even more, Monty. I'm gonna pop you even more, brother. You know how old he is?
That's what I'm saying, bro. He's like 21 or some shit.
God,
this is serious. Like this is.
I may have to join you in that.
If you've not seen this match, yeah, you just need to see this talent, you know. And is he actually Dr. Wagner Jr.'s shoot brother? Like, is that a real thing, or are we getting works by commentary?
I feel like there's some lucha kayfabe here. But I'm not 100% sure.
If he's his shoot brother, bro, this is. I'm getting all worked up, you know.
Wait, you're saying the brother of Elio the Dr. Wagner Jr.? I'm pretty sure that is his brother. All
right. I think business. You know, like I said, 6'5", 300 pounds of just straight, raw, talented Mexican heritage. You know, this is just what wrestling needs. These are the talents that should always be in wrestling. You know, these are the talents that would have made it in any era. And this was the match itself was actually awesome. It wasn't just Dalmar. It was, you know, the whole match itself was just awesome. You know, I'm not really into so much like the spot fest shit, you know. But it just worked, you know. Doing lucha shit in Japan, you know, people it just clicked perfectly, you know.
You know the truth, authentic cultural spot fests. That's where the real money is, you know. You know, it's just 4 great men, 3 of them big, doing lucha libre. Dragon Bane and Alpha Wolf are an excellent tag team. Dragon Bane and Alpha Wolf are an excellent team. I'm so excited that they're going to be in the N1 Victory Tournament this year. That really spices up the tournament. I'm really sad that, like, you know, some old favorites like Takashi Sugiura won't be in it, but Dragon Bane and Alpha Wolf have really showed out, and they've become one of the best teams in the world. And so I thought they showed out as well, Monty. I'm sure you were into this match, Jamie. I mean, it's just killer back and forth tag team action.
Yeah, it's exactly what I saw. I think a lot of people were really excited when they saw the match announced, even if you weren't super familiar with everyone involved. You know, just kind of getting a lucha spot fest on any show is usually great, but with these guys involved, it was always going to be something special. I was unfamiliar with how young Galeno Del Mal is. I'm going to have to join Montel on this investment. I didn't realize how we're dealing with something very serious here. he was the star of the show. It was a monster. There was a monster in there. He was. We talk about being a spot. He was really going for it out there, and he's you know, he's no cruiserweight. he was flying around there. What insane! And yeah, I'm with you, Ibu, on the M1 point about Los Golpeadores, seeing them in the mix. You know, they've been super impressive since they've been there in Noah. They've kind of shown out on all of these shows. I think usually even the lower end of these kind of Noah pay-per-views that we get, there's always usually an Alpha Wolf Dragon Bane match that is worth checking out at the very least. So it's nice to see them get a big spot. But yeah, this was great fun,
bro. In the N1, there's going to be a B-Block night where we're going to get to see Elio del Dr. Wagner Jr. wrestle Alpha Wolf. Like, I'll tell you what, man, I don't want to jinx myself because the Ibu jinx is lethal, but this N1 looks more fun than the G1 this year.
It moves me, man. That lineup,
awesome.
Bro, so, I mean, I tweeted about, like, this N1 lineup's moved me, and people were like, oh, Josh Breeks. I was like, bro, look at the rest of the field.
Yes. How many times in the G1s there's like 3, 4, 5, 6 people you don't want to see in that thing? Dude, this tournament has Kaito, Go Shiozaki, Masaki Miya, Dragon Bane, Alpha Wolf, Ryohei Oiwa, who's a big standout. Kano, freaking Yoshiki Inamura, Manabu Soya, freaking Eliodo Dr. Wagner Jr. There's so much to like here. I'm excited. I'm locked in. This show was awesome. Just looking top to bottom. Watch Noah Destiny. Talk to your local cable provider, whoever you need to talk to get a link to this thing. It was so freaking good. Not quite good and pretty funny and unfortunate was the development of the good-looking guys. We had the good-looking guys Civil War tag here, and the big outcome out of this was that Jake Lee has departed Noah. He has defected from Noah, and he has joined not the Bloodline but the Bullet Club. He has gone to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it appears he is going to be a War Dog. So good riddance if you're a Noah fan. And if you're a New Japan fan, you have gained another pretty poor wrestler to pollute these cards. So worth mentioning there. Also worth mentioning before we get to AJ Styles, Kaito Kiyomiya defended his GHC championship against Yoichi. Yoichi is the former Yoshiki Inamura, who will be rechristened as Yoshiki Inamura because apparently he's dropping the Yoichi name. So that was a freaking 3-week thing. But anyway, Yoshiki Inamura was a younger-ish wrestler from Noah who went on a bit of an excursion to the UK. Is back as Yoichi with this new look and is a big powerhouse guy. Kind of gives me vibes of Goto. Some Kensuke Sasaki in there. But I thought this match was awesome, man. Fucking awesome. Yoichi really arrived as a main event player and had a hell of a back-and-forth match. So another great title defense for Kaito Kiyomiya, who's really arrived this year as just one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's been that way for a couple years, but now they're pushing him in that respect, so it's nice to see. And a hell of a main event. But the big talking point coming out of the show was AJ Styles' performance, because, folks, he comes in from the WWE to wrestle Naomichi Marufuji. Marufuji is somebody who's much worse for wear, is not in his physical prime anymore, is very beat up and relatively old. He faces AJ Styles here, and they have a hell of a match. This was a match that Dave Meltzer would describe as super. Styles looked right at home, and after the initial feeling out process, he just turns into a bumping machine, an absolute animal. There was some great back and forth action here. Naomichi's brought back some of his old kind of like strike combinations, and Styles is ducking and dodging and, comboing by on his own and doing the Pele kick. There was a sick moment here where AJ, like, he's hesitating to do the Styles Clash, and he almost drops him, picks him up, and then does the freaking like Tenryu style folding powerbomb right into a Styles Clash, which was like ridiculous. He breaks out a 450 in this match. Just lots to love here. Great back and forth action. 25 minutes. Styles looked like he hadn't missed a beat, and this was an excellent match. What did you think of this one, Jamie?
Oh, this was spectacular, wasn't it? AJ Styles back in Japan. AJ Styles is probably the biggest reason why I love Japanese wrestling. He's kind of the main reason I got into New Japan in the first place. So seeing him back in Japan, obviously in a different setting than we saw him last time, but very, very special. Marufuji's incredibly washed, and this was an immense, pretty immense carry job. He had his moments in there, but it was very, helped a lot. By the, as you say, Styles being a bit of a bumping madman in there. And man, what a resurgence he's been on this year. I know he's made you eat your words a few times here, but he got on that cycle. He's been a different animal.
He looks like an animal. Like
There's that one picture of him, the size of him.
What the hell? It's just crazy. And I'll tell you this, seeing the performances that AJ and Iyo gave, it kind of really does reinforce the top end of the WWE roster is pretty spectacular. And when they're in settings to kind of showcase this, they have the professional pride to be like, yo, nah, I'm like one of the best. And AJ looked like one of the best out here. Monty, how did you feel about Mr. Jones's performance?
Yeah, this was awesome, man. One of my favorite matches of the weekend, of a very stacked weekend. And Joey made me laugh about Marufuji. He's past his prime, And the thing that pops me about Marufuji, is that like it was like similar to like the Will Ospreay match like last year when he was winding down his Japan dates. It's kind of like Marufuji will always be Marufuji, like what he means, how iconic he is, and stuff like that. Right. And there is always going to be a fan of his, whether that's a fellow wrestler like Ospreay or someone who just very much respects him, like AJ Styles, etc. It's like once a year or however often it is, he's like, oh, man, gotta
Yeah,
strap up these boots again. Like,
purely
and he
because
gives it an effort,
guy-
you know. God bless.
Monty, purely because he's facing a guy who reveres him for what he was.
Yeah,
and he's
you can't stink it out with
Yeah, so it's
AJ
like,
or Will Ospreay or one of these guys. You gotta like, it's just and he just pops man. He looked all right here, but AJ, man, this 2024 fucking PED fucking AJ style, bro. It's not even like he's so in shape, you know. Like it's fucking mad, bro. Like, I don't know, man. He's a monster at the minute. He's on some crazy form, you know.
Yes.
AJ Styles still doing it in 2024. What a wrestler.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man, no sort of match. It was a very good match.
Very good
Very
match.
good match.
Very good match. In a show with a sea full of very good matches. So, folks,
Yeah.
I think the conclusion here is you should watch Marigold Summer Destiny and Noah Destination if you have not seen it. These are two excellent shows. And you know, to be a shill here, you should subscribe to Wrestle Universe. When it comes to bang for your buck content, man, it's so much good stuff. And the accessibility and the app is so functional. I'm gonna tell you guys a quick thing real quick. I know we're running out of time, but compared to New Japan World, I mean, dude, I tuned into the Sendai Girls show and it was still live, but it was about to end in about 10 minutes. And I scrolled back to the Jordan Grace match to watch her versus Chihiro Hashimoto, right? And I paused. And then like I forgot what happened, but like the thing kind of timed out. And like by the time like I was still watching the show as the show ended, right? And so like I lost the window. I clicked back thinking I'm gonna have to go back to the beginning and find where I was. But the player kept it on where I was. Does that make sense? Like the player remembered what spot I was on, even though the live broadcast ended. And like, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but I was like, oh, what an app. You know, what a website. So Wrestle Universe, man, it has so much content, man. You know, Tokyo Joshi Pro, Sendai Girls, Michinoku Pro, 01, Noah, DDT. It's $8. $8. You're stealing. It's a steal. Get it. But yeah, I just had to put that out there. Before we get out of here, I want to make a quick mention. Stephanie Vaquer. We weren't able to touch on this last week. Stephanie Vaquer last week was a CMLL wrestler. At least as far as we knew. She was holding their world title, their women's world title. She was somebody that just appeared on Forbidden Door and had an excellent match with Mercedes Moné. And I was informed that she signed with WWE either Sunday or Monday. We later found out later in the week that she was joining WWE and NXT and that she was at Heatwave. So she was at Heatwave on Sunday. She did her last match in, I want to say, Guadalajara in CMLL facing Tessa Blanchard. And then she ended up not doing her remaining dates. And then Friday, she's on a WWE house show. It was Thursday that we found out in the morning that she's leaving. And then we find out like it's likely WWE. Then it gets confirmed that it's WWE. Then Shawn Michaels is like, welcome Stephanie Vaquer. And then Friday you see all these clips of Stephanie Vaquer in Mexico. So one of the quicker turnarounds and quick turn of events. And yeah, man, just an interesting story. I think Stephanie's gonna do well in WWE, and I'm very excited to be honest with you about their women's division. Like I didn't care about NXT, but now I have like some women to invest in. And so I'm going to be monitoring her, and I'm happy for her. But just what a story there, you know. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add there, but it was just worth mentioning the Stephanie Vaquer situation.
Yeah, of course, you got to mention it. She's being presented as a big deal signing, you know, the whole kind of like bringing her out for the Mexico live shows, and you know, the big deal they've kind of made of it on social media as well. It's a very promising start for her starting WWE. You expect her to be made a big deal of in the NXT, and I'm excited to see how she kind of adapts. You know, because there's always going to be that adaptation, whether it's Julia, whether it's Stephanie, whether it's any of these women that are getting signed and not being brought up in the PC. They're going to have to adapt to doing TV. Then never mind just TV. You're doing fucking NXT TV, which is a whole. You have to show a whole different spectrum of fucking. You know, skill set. So yeah, man, interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big get for WWE. She got that A factor a little like quite similar to Julia.
Mm-hmm.
and she's obviously kind of emerged a lot since being on New Japan, AEW and stuff in the last year or so. So yeah, a huge get and another big addition to NXT with Julie coming in too.
Absolutely. Another thing worth mentioning, I forgot. We've been looking at a live via satellite feed that I've totally just forgotten about. But Anna's been waiting this whole time to give her opinions on Iyo versus Utami, and this is a match she's so excited for. So Anna, I really apologize for not getting to you earlier while we were talking about the Marigold show. I know you've been chomping at the bit. I know you've been waiting. You've been standing here in front of all these people in the middle of nowhere, not the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of public,
in the middle of Germany.
In the middle of Germany, she's literally been standing here just waiting.
In the cold.
It's getting cold now. The sun is going to set shortly. You've been waiting to talk about Utami and Iyo. So we'll cut to you now, Anna. I think your feed is working. I see you kind of wondering if your feed is on. But Anna, please just kind of talk to us about this Iyo and Utami match.
I can be there tonight because I'm traveling. I'm in Hamburg, in Germany. But I just wanted to come in here and say, like, Iyo Sky, the best wrestler in the world. The match is amazing. I'm so happy that it happened. They exceeded all expectations, and it just felt like so special. I'll be there next week to talk more about like, the whole show when I am able to catch up, because I didn't have a lot of time. But just this match, I watched it, and it felt so. Yeah, it just felt special. It was amazing. I'm so happy for Utami, and yeah, I'm just so happy that the dream match finally happened. And I'm sorry I'm in the middle of the shoot here, but enjoy the show tonight. I'll be there next week and I'll talk about the whole show. But I think you guys are in good hands with Jamie, so see you next week.
Thank you, Anna. We really appreciate that.
Ain't she lovely?
Yeah.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Appreciate that insight from Anna. We'll get more extended thoughts from her next week on Marigold and all the happenings in pro wrestling. But for Monty and Jamie Ross, do we have any super chats, brother?
We do, brother. We do. We got a couple.
Right.
We got a couple
load
to
them
finish
up. Load them up while everyone gets ready for Raw. Dragunov and Zayn tonight.
KO 50 pesos. Appreciate it as always. If we're doing Dragon Ball Z type power scaling, how many Joshis to take out Charlotte?
It depends who it is.
At least 3. Yeah. At least.
Sari could do it 1v1.
Yeah, Sari and Sari
and
Big Hash.
Man.
Sari can beat her by herself.
I don't know, man.
Nah, Sari can do it.
So it depends. Is it in a stadium? It's in a stadium. I don't know, man.
Listen, we haven't seen stadium, so that might be a scary prospect that I'm not sure you want to put Charlotte in the ring with on this current form.
Tokyo Dome Sari.
Yeah.
All right. Anna Sultan, $2. Appreciate it as always. Iyo is my wrestler of the year. Good matches and just awesome as hell. She's a beast, man. She's fucking awesome.
Yep.
And Champion, $2. Appreciate it as always. Realistically, between Shingo, Shota, and Tsuji, I'm assuming that's a G1 winner. Who wins? Question mark. I'm saying Yota, man. I'd like it to be Zach, but very unlikely it seems as we get closer and closer. But yeah, I'm backing Yota.
I think Huge Suji does it. I think Yota Tsuji does it.
Yeah, they've got to go with one of the young guys, and I think right now Suji's the standout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hush, $2. Appreciate it as always. Damn, Vaquer sprinted over there. Happy for her though. Yeah, it's a dream job, bro. So it's just like it is what it is, and it's gonna be the case for a lot of wrestlers. It's WWE, like they're so, it's what everyone grew up watching, bro. And especially now that they're like a competent, creative company, it's.
What it reminds me of, Monty, a little bit is when you see like South American footballers and they're like intent on going to Barca and
you have to go Barca and Real. Yeah, I know.
There was reports that mentioned that AEW didn't exist right when Stephanie Vaquer was growing up wanting to be a wrestler. That's gonna be a factor for some people. It certainly was.
100%. Anna Sultan, $2. Appreciate it as always. Iyo and AJ matches going at the same time is evil. Well, it was. It was unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes sometimes, bro. And Champion, $2. Appreciate it as always. Did Ibu give his thoughts on Dragon versus Hangman?
I tweeted them, but in short, I thought it was great. I thought it was the weakest of their 4 matches, but these guys have excellent chemistry. The blood was awesome. Hangman Page's new character is great. I love how he wrestles and acts in this gimmick. I was very disappointed in the result because I preferred him and Swerve as the personal story. But you can't go wrong with Bryan Danielson chasing a championship. I could have done with some of the Jarrett stuff in the closing stretch, but it was still nevertheless a very, very, very good wrestling match.
Good shit, man. Good shit.
Mhm.
All right, that's all the super chats, brother.
Awesome.
Good to get it out of you. Send us on, Riddler.
I guess then with that, folks, that's Monday Night Raw. It's Monday Night Raw. Not Monday Night Raw. I'm so cooked. That is WrestlePurists World. Why did I, you know what it was? I'm reading the Raw plans on my other phone from Fight Club.
That was bro fully well. And that, folks, Monday Night Raw.
I had a
little
Jim Ross
graphic in the
moment.
corner.
Thank you for WWE Dynamite. But no, I was reading it on my other phone. But anyway, folks, for Jamie, for Monty, I'm Eagle WrestlePurists. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. We'll see you guys next time. That was WrestlePurists Worldwide, and I'll see you guys next week.
You see him tomorrow for the Raw review, actually, but like to subscribe as well, people. Peace.